Hello, where we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming because you were supposed to get the Strange New Worlds Enterprise today with a surprise drop where the long overdue new models have finally come to my door. And we are starting, as voted previously, with the USS Cerritos. However, most importantly, is not the return of my backdrop, is not, this fancier, better background. It is that still, we are the definitive Starship Review series without access to a proper table. And yes, we are, as I said before, looking at the XL USS Cerritos, finally in America, from Eaglemoss. And there will also be a vote in the community tab after this video goes up, whether you want to look at the XL Discovery A or Jupiter Station X. They've both arrived. But yes, this is a very long-awaited model for me. But before we get into the review, after all, we have waited this long, I must say that I am part of the Eaglemoss affiliate program, which means that if you choose to purchase this model because of this video, there is a link in the description. That is an affiliate link, meaning I will get a 7% commission on the sale of this model. I still purchase these with my own money and am allowed to say whatever the heck I want about these ships. However, just know there's a monetary incentive for me to tell you to go buy these ships. Nailed it! I haven't done that in months. But anyway, yes, the XL Cerritos, which is quite attached to its stand. I will get into that in a sec. But first off, as you can tell, XL indeed. I believe all the lower decks models, or at least the Titan, is about this size as well, despite not being labeled as an XL. But we are going to get into our size comparisons. Good lord, that is larger than the frame. How am I going to do this? Unfortunately, I am quite limited. I just have a few Enterprises here with me in Bellingham. But thankfully, the Enterprise D really shows off the scale of the Cerritos. I mean, I'm not going to get them both on camera, but you can see the Cerritos is actually a bit taller, but they're about the same height. The Cerritos is again longer, but about the same width. Sorry, length. Actually, wow, here you go. Lining up the saucer sections, the Cerritos is significantly longer than the Enterprise D. That's massive, and wow, this could use a good dusting. But width-wise, these are actually really comparable models. That's why the D is such a good comparison. The saucers, you can hopefully get a good idea. These are bigger than the frame, but are approximately the same size. And in fact, because the Cerritos is a circle and this is an oval, the Cerritos saucer is actually bigger, a tad thicker. Like, this is a huge model. It is comparable to the D, but larger than the D. And just to drive home the point more, the Enterprise E, yes, we bring it out for the long models. Longer than the Cerritos, yes, but not by a whole lot. It's kind of hard to show off because of, just the height differences. But as you can see, yeah, just the saucer alone is huge on the Cerritos, so you do not have to worry about size with this model. It'd be fascinating to compare it to the XL Arena, but I do not have that with me. Hey, look at that. It also stands largely on its own. I was just getting a drink, but anyway, I do have to point out, incredibly importantly, before we get into much of this model, is that Eaglemoss gave everybody a heart attack when, as we all know on the website, the pictures are promotional models and don't always match the final product. In fact, that is quite common. But still, regularly, misprints do occur. The shuttle set review I just did, the Type 7 shuttlecraft, didn't say Enterprise on the background. It said, like, Enterprise. And I missed it. And there are others, famous examples. The the USS Shinzone says, ISS. But the Cerritos on the web store says the USS Cerritis. It doesn't have the O. And this was confirmed before, but I can happily say that this is in fact a USS Cerritos and not a Cerritis. Why Eaglemoss doesn't just take a new picture, I don't know. I do them weekly for thumbnails. But yes, there is no such misprint on this model. And so yes, now ship-specific things. I mean, the Cerritos is a beautiful ship. It is one that definitely shook the fan base a little bit when it first came out. Of course, in that movie-style poster thing, we all kind of went, huh, I think was kind of the general reaction. Like, that'll grow on me, but it's a bit weird. But no, we have now fully fallen in love with the lower deck Cerritos, the underdog ship, and it designed under that classic Starfleet philosophy of a silhouette we've never seen before, which of course gets harder with every series. All of these angles, I mean, it's just a wonderful ship. The front on is quite a particularly nice ice skater-esque vibe. But of course the saucer section, especially with a lot of the angles you might display the ship at, unless it's above eye level, the saucer section is really going to be a highlight for just what draws your eye. And as you can see, it is done in a vaguely animated style, because of course it is an animated ship. Technically, usually a CGI model, actually. Sometimes they do draw it. It isn't quite as real as the Enterprise D, but it really works. I think most people were wanting that, and it does not look out of place amongst all the other starships. As a consequence, though, the Aztecing, the pattern underneath is a bit simpler. I don't quite want to say bland, but it is definitely the not quite as textured. Maybe a scale thing. Like, it feels like these are way larger panels than before. I don't actually know the Cerritos' size, and the magazine's not going to tell me. It's a pretty big ship. I think it's comparable to some of those other things like the Galaxy class, at least in terms of pure volume. Well, look at the windows, actually. It is a little smaller than the Galaxy classes, but it's still a big ship. I think, actually, when I got these three models, this along with Jupiter Station and Discovery, it kind of caught me as initially a bit disappointed in that kind of bland, like just where you get these big sections of just the light gray. I don't know, maybe I was hoping more, but I've got to say I've got this kind of off to my right, above my keyboard, the piano keyboard, by my desk, and I'm just really loving it more and more. There are kind of two types of Eaglemoss models you love. The ones you pull out of the box and are blown away by. That was the Voyager for me. The Discovery A, actually, which we'll get to probably next week, is blew me away. And then there are models like the Cerritos or the Dideridax, if I call correctly, which you're super excited for. You get, and something's like, I don't know, it's maybe not as much as you wanted, but then, whoops, then you have it on your shelf for a bit, and it's like, no, this is perfect. So let's get looking into the details, and we're going to start with probably is the most apparent, and I think what's key to notice here is when you were looking at this model like this, whether or not you spotted it, is that along here, like you can see these windows, they're pretty good, very animated style, just, it's white or black. I think these ones are indented. Yes, they are indented a little bit, lined up very well. And then if we just turn to over here, you have what has got to be the worst window misalignment I've ever seen. In fact, over here, you can really see that leftmost one is a full, like, 2.5 windows left of where it should be. It's down. It's kind of weird. Like, these white ones are good. I suppose it's the white template, then the black template is probably how they do this. And I don't know how they paint these models. Eaglemoss has advertised hand-painted since the beginning. And I mean, obviously it's true. You don't do as much business with the BBC as they do as a British corporation and get away with false advertising for so long. However, the fans who collect a lot of these always have to ask, how are they hand painted? Because this is not a problem with my model. This is everybody's model, and it's always been this way. Window misalignment, wisp prints, and stuff like that. Paint smudges. The Voyager J's got a very specific paint smudge. Every single model is going to have that. Even when they do reissues, it will still have that. Because it's some machine, some template that's just ever moving. Or whatever hand painting they do, they follow their instructions to a T, regardless of how correct they are. However, now here's the interesting bit. The windows are indented, and so, like, yes, you can see here, you do see it. Under the film lighting, it's a bit more apparent. But as I mentioned before, when you noticed it, because it's done more animated, you have a lot more of these big stretches of just kind of the same color. I mean, it does break it up. You can see here where my thumb is, there's a really subtle shift from the dark to the light, like right there. But by and large, it is a lot of these big same color spaces, especially over where the misalignment is. You don't really notice it as much. Without the film light, I'd say, if you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, those windows are horribly misaligned. But if you look at the ship, like, for example, on my view cam right now, or even just in person, just looking at the ship and admiring it, I don't see it. I see it when I look directly at the windows, and I'm kind of looking for it as well. It's obvious, looking around here looking for it. But if I'm looking at the ship, usually kind of about here, you don't see it. Like, it's kind of saved by the animation style, is it's not as bad as it would be on a live action model in normal conditions, just kind of observing it. But it is still always a shame that the window alignment isn't aligned. They should really just stop indenting these. Like, it is always a problem. In fact, I've just checked the Enterprise D, where it's not a problem, and that's because they don't indent the windows. Just feeling it. And I've literally never noticed that they don't indent the windows. So yeah, Eaglemoss, just stop indenting the windows. But beyond that, I do quite like the Aztecing pattern you get up here on the top, and it's really well done for the style that it is. You even got it up here on the darker bits. Like, there's so many colors. 5, maybe even 7, just kind of glancing at it now. Ignoring the yellow, the blue, I'm just talking about the gray. It's a lot of colors, and they really captured the style, especially on these nacelles, but we're focusing on the saucer now. The yellow is done definitely, kind of painted over, especially when it goes over from like a light to a black. You can kind of tell someone just painted it like a paintbrush. There's not a lot of bleed through, but it's do you want that? I guess it's do you want that look or not? More of a style thing. But again, from the distance, especially on this viewfinder, actually, it is really well done. But what this model does nail on the saucer is the elevation changes. These bumps, for whatever they are. You have the, what do you even want to call this? I think the magazine referred to it as like a bra section once when the coloring was wrong or weird on the bottom. But this whole darker bit that's kind of built on top of the model with the steps at every level, the indents down, the little chunk here, that's all done just perfectly and really kind of making me realize more just how 3D the Cerritos is. And you also get the little nips in on the different parts of the saucer section. Of course, the phaser strips are done in blue, which isn't something I recall from the show. Looking at the actual magazine photo, right? I mean, yeah, it's right. And unusual for Star Trek, but it does work for this model really well. That was my magazine falling into the garbage off of my keyboard. Popping down to the underside of the saucer now, a lot of the same. Actually, because you don't have that thick black bit, you can really see this Aztecing pattern a lot more. I almost feel this Cerritos is a model that you should kind of just play at that level. Even though the top is really good, it hides so much of the bottom. In fact, you can get it to where it's just a UFO. Ooh, that looks weird. And it needs to be kind of an underlit, well, here we go, kind of like this underlit displayed model, or just at eye level. But anyway, a same Aztecing pattern. You got the indents along here. Window misalignment all across the bottom as well. In fact, did they just not paint those? Or are those windows so misaligned that they're not even close? I think they're missing ones. I don't even know what's going on there. Is it actually, is it these white ones? No, look over here as well. It's just so misaligned. Except the back, which, oh no, actually they are indented, but not as much. So you don't notice it as much, like as strongly. Eaglemoss, stop indenting your windows. But yes, you have the same yellow stripe, really pops, really make this model stand out, as of course the Cerritos is an engineering ship, as you can tell because it does first contact missions. I guess it has done some fair amount of tugging, tugboat missions, kind of engineering style problems. No, I'll give them that. But yeah, it's a nice idea. I like it on the Cerritos, at the very least aesthetically. Moving on to the nacelles, very long ships. In fact, how do the nacelles compare to just the D? Yeah, I mean, the nacelle alone is almost the length of the Enterprise D XL. And really well done here. You have the see-through blue plastic on the nacelles. Doesn't quite give you the same effect as some others, because I don't think you can see through to the other side, or not a lot of light gets in. I can't figure it out, but I think really the nacelles are so thick, it doesn't quite glow as much, but it's still a lot better than paint. You then have the black bits that kind of stick out, well, more purpley. It's an interesting color. I always thought it was a bit more black in the show, but that might just be kind of space lighting and stuff. It does have a bit of a purple tint looking on the magazine. And the red is, of course, painted on. But yeah, that's the Cerritos nacelle. I think it looks weirder in the real world because, of course, usually this is in front of space. It's black. In fact, I wonder. Yeah, if I do that, it's a better. It just doesn't stand out as well. I mean, it's accurate. It's more a problem of we're not in space than it is the model. But you have the lovely little Starfleet insignia in the line. I have just realized I don't think the Cerritos actually says United Federation of Planets anywhere on it. It's just got the one registry, which is unusual. I'm not going to say unique in Starfleet. There's probably other ships, like, I don't know, maybe the Oberth or something. Actually, looking up the NX. Yeah, the NX might. I can't remember. But, yeah, I've never noticed that before. I have just seen, though, that bridge, which I think is... I've always thought was a view screen in lower decks. I think it might actually be a window. Something in the magazine mentioned is also really misaligned. And, no windows on the saucer, even though the actual ship does have it. I knew this was a problem before I got it. Once I got it, I can see why they didn't do it. For one, how much trouble they've had everywhere else on the model. But also the space. They've done windows in thinner spaces, but it would be hard. And it's not the biggest deal, especially because there is not a seam, but there's some sort of texture. There you go. You can kind of see that almost gives the impression of something there, like where the windows would be. I don't know. It's real hard to explain. And I do kind of notice their absence when I compare it to a picture of the Cerritos, like on their magazine. Really, actually, in that picture. But if you're not looking directly at the rim, it's all right. Also, the complete disparity between, windows on a rim and on a saucer, that's more a Star Trek thing. I mean, these windows are massive in every ship. The engineering section down here, which is always that weird Oberth. How do you get there? I know it's through nacelles, but it just always feels weird. Pretty nicely done here as well. I've just seen there's no dark paint on this back. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Same for the front. But as I did say, I just noticed it. I also did get this model like 4 days ago, so who knows. But you do have, again, a lot of this indenting, bumps. You still have the white engineering division coloring, I guess. Lovely little cutouts in here. Actually, this ship, just kind of here, if you detach it, is really setting off like recognition alarms. I cannot place it for the life of me. Yes, I can. It's a Romulan bird of prey mixed with like Luke Skywalker's land speeder. But underneath you do have a much bigger, probably the biggest yellow section. I didn't even know the Cerritos had this. Looking at the picture on the magazine though, it is there. But again, it does look a bit more like, yeah, you painted it on. Really well, like better than if you actually did paint it on, but it does kind of have that painted on feel. And lastly, the deflector dish, which is hard to get a kind of good view on when you're displaying it. Again, it's really needs to be kind of front on displayed and lit from underneath, because otherwise this big saucer is going to hide a lot of detail underneath. But it is interesting, like I don't think we see that shade of purple in really any other model, and a very light baby blue tan in there. It's the sort of weird Lego brick colors that I think it looks nice. I'm not 100% sure if it matches the Cerritos. Again, looking at the magazine, it is very purple. I'm starting to feel like this might be one of the reviews where I'm very happy and positive with the model, don't regret the purchase. I love just holding it in my hand right now. But I seem to be coming up with a lot of critiques, whereas the good things are just, it's the Cerritos. And before I forget, in terms of composition, this is a very heavy model. In fact, my right hand is starting to get kind of sore, having been holding it for about 25 minutes. But in terms of like surface area, not a whole lot of it is metal. This entire top section is plastic. I think, yes, even this top gray bit is plastic. Down here, you can kind of see the big seam. I believe this whole thing is metal, though there is a bit of a sound difference. but I don't see where the seam would be. I'm pretty sure this whole bottom bit is metal, and presumably some of the inside bit, if you were to disassemble it, this isn't 2D, the bottom metal bit, and almost all the weight is in this saucer, because everything else is plastic. Yeah, to the best of my ability, everything else is plastic. Which does create some interesting problems with the stand, which is a pretty secure in that you're not going to fall backwards. Because this is kind of how it's supposed to stand, and if I let go of the back, it's a lot more flat. Which, if you live in an earthquake zone, you might not want to display it on the edge of your shelf. But as you can see, this isn't a good place to grip. Like, the only thing stopping it from falling forward is the fact it's leaning back. So when it's flat, that causes problems. I think Eaglemoss is aware of this, because if you look at the stand, it's pretty unique from my memory. You can see it's got these weird little teeth on it, which often are going to fit into very specific parts of the ship. Spoilers for the next video, but if I just get the Discovery A, you can see, the clips for the nacelles have got a gap on the top, and it took me a while to see this, but the Discovery engines have got like a little detail on the top here that perfectly slides into there. Like, usually these stands are really sculpted. And incidentally, subscribe for more. This is what you're voting for next week. But for the Cerritos, I think it's here to just really grip the saucer section. Because as you saw at some point early on this video, I kind of really had to rip it out. It will stand here. It's pretty loosely supported, but it's not the strongest one because the model's mass is really here. It's really wanting to push down. And so it actually took me a while. I had to consult the magazine that I was doing it right. That, yeah, this does just kind of clip on symmetrically here, but you really gotta push that in. And it doesn't look like it scrapes the model. Maybe if you constantly take it in and out every day, it would. But those teeth really just kind of seem to be there to grip the Cerritos model and kind of bend those plastic stands, which I'm always nervous for. But then, once you have it in there, it's in there. That takes force to get out. You could have this in your earthquake zone, and like maybe it would fall off the shelf, maybe the plastic would fall out of the black thing, but the Cerritos is not falling out of the plastic. So do I recommend this model? I mean, it has some flaws like that window thing, some coloring that maybe feels more painted on than usual, or like that deflector might not be perfect, but also, just look at this. I mean, this is the Cerritos. It's an XL Cerritos. It's a big size. It's gonna get to live with your model of the Eaglemoss ships. I mean, if you ask me what they could have done better, I'd say the window alignment, and I'd probably say well done. There's some things, like, it's been a while that I've seen Lower Decks. Like, I don't know, maybe there should be some extra blue in here. I think that's what it is. There's an extra blue layer that should be here that isn't because it's too fine of a detailing. Yes, sorry, that's exactly what it is. Because they have, the blue outline, that blue rectangle in the middle, that's not here because that'd be too hard to do. Okay, I see it now. Yeah, I mean, it's just the Cerritos. It's what we've been asking for ages. I suppose like the stand might be able to be better, and especially if you tilt it up more, maybe glue this stand down so it does force the Cerritos to tip up. I mean, look at that angle where it's supposed to be, and then the angle it's actually gonna sit at. It's crazy. But that's a problem with basically every stand. And on top of it, actually, I haven't mentioned one of these for a while, but this magazine, it's actually really good. For one, you could see that the Cerritos could have been awful. I mean, there are many, many designs, but take a look at this one, which is actually supposed to look like that. That's one design, not two. But it's just great as well to read Mike McMahon. Mike McMahon, to me, is the Star Trek equivalent to Doctor Who's Russell T Davies. I mean, there is no one who has ever been better suited to run a Star Trek. He knows what makes Star Trek. He knows what makes his comedy as well. He knows what he wants his show to be and what will make it work. What he wants people to feel. He does it, and it works. I mean, it's wonderful to see. I think this might have been written before season 2 came out because it's been that long waiting for these orders. But it's great to learn about the Cerritos, but also just to hear Mike McMahon and just revel in the fact that Star Trek is in good hands. I know these models have gotten more expensive. I haven't bought an XL since the price increase, and they charged me before the price increase because I pre-ordered this one. But if you're a fan of the Cerritos, I don't think you'll be disappointed. All the seams are hidden underneath. Maybe you could say there's a bit of messy glue work done here, but it's alright. Again, it's underneath. You're not really going to see it. Even if you elevate the model, you're not really going to see it. And yeah, I'm just happy to have the Cerritos finally in my collection. Well, I would say I get to own all the hero ships, but we're still waiting on the Protostar. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it for today. Remember that there is a vote for the Discovery A or the Jupiter station next week. For, just taking the Cerritos out of the mix. It won by a landslide, so I'm going to let people change their vote, but the Cerritos people vote again. But I'm really looking forward to that, especially the Discovery A, but Jupiter Station is really good. If there are any other models you want me to review, just ask in the description. I get my whole collection again soon, so I have most of them, more likely to have it than not. And now that these models are all in America again, we can start playing catch-up pretty soon. Not right away, but pretty soon I can start putting money towards those old new models that I haven't quite gotten to the channel yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time!